A warm welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Michelle de Klerk. I'm the founder of the Women's Chapter. And today I am joined by the amazing Lara Morgan, who is a serial entrepreneur. I know many of you know who have come across her or have followed her journey. Some of the businesses include Centered, Kit Bricks. I know that there are 9 in your stable.
I think 8 if we're honest now. Nobody's perfect.
But Lara, I mean, I have known you since the very start of the Women's Chapter journey, and you've always been so incredibly supportive of everything that we've done. So I'm eternally grateful. And again, today for giving your time to share your insights and expertise around influencer marketing and how that's been really successful for you. But I'm guessing that you've got some lessons to share with us about what you've learned along the way. So thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Michelle, just to get a time check, because I'm an idiot, approximately how long are people expecting this to last? Because I'm in Chicago and I can talk forever, which won't help anyone.
So I think we did have a total of an hour scheduled, but if you don't have that amount of time, then that's
No, we're fine, but we'll fit Q&A. If you can start waving frantically in about 35 minutes, I'll talk with a planned outline that I've got, and then I'm really happy. And I would love to do chat because I think people get much more when they can ask their specific question. And also just to demonstrate to other women, and I do mean this with absolute sincerity, since my dad went bankrupt when I was 18, I've been flying by the seat of my pants, right? I had to get my first job in an unplanned way. And you can bore yourselves witless if you want to read my Amazon best-selling book, which was written basically for my 3 kids, who are the reason I do what I do, because I have 3 girls. And I think we need to demonstrate that actually, if you don't quite have it, fake it till you make it. And I've been doing it relatively successfully with lots of things still to learn. So never lose the humility card. But I'm about to talk on a subject about which yet again I knew nothing about. And I've been doing this, and I can't believe I'm the invited guest, and my parents would be wetting themselves laughing at how I continue to find a way. But so should you enjoy laughing at some of the boundaries that you push in the comfort zones where, and actually now you can look even cooler because you can use ChatGPT and sound like a bloody expert. And that's the other point I wanted to make, which is if you don't already have ChatGPT writing your ChatGPT policy for your business, and if you're not breaking boundaries at changing and utilizing, I mean, for example, influencers, affiliates, a tier and hierarchy system of how to milk social, then you need to be getting to it, but also you need to be aware there's a change where children like my younger ones, even 5 years ago, going, "Mummy, don't look at that. It's a paid for ad." Right. So also you've got to have a bit of nous about you. And I went to Harvard on to give some credibility to what I'm about to talk about. I promise you it isn't all in the chat. To go on a sports entertainment and industry network. So the education piece is the other, never stop learning. So let's talk about your objectives, and I'm going to go quite quickly. It's on a recording. I'm sure you can get it sorted, but I'm trying to do this in a format which I'm rubbish at. What are you trying to achieve through your influencer marketing? Because there are huge waves of differentials between the size, nano, micro, macro, influencer size, social audiences, who you're talking to, how much time you want to spend on it, can you manage it? Once you've set it up, who's going to keep it going? I've literally just got off a call from my team going, we need an extra day doing social ambassador care. And if you're not thinking about, have you got the bandwidth? And if you're delusional enough to think that you should be sending your social posts last thing in bed at night, actually it's affecting your sleep and damaging your business. Right? So think hard about the strategy of your long-term and your short-term goals. Clearly, I'm going to make some statements that are stating the bleeding obvious, because Michelle said we've got some really startup phase businesses and then we've got some more mature ones. But alignment to your audience, I completely made a bollocks up with TikTok. And again, I'll always share where we try some stuff, right? So I've got a brand that's doing a very solid run rate in America. In fact, it's growing like it's fantastic. But I wanted to test, in America, was my audience actually the same age and stage? And we hadn't gone on to TikTok with the brand Centered. So we invested in an agency to run our TikTok posts, and we got the age, and we did intentionally fail in a sense. We could have intentionally succeeded. but I wanted to test, could I win more 25 to 35-year-olds than the Centred brand is really working for the 30-year-old to 55-year-old juggling woman? And it bombed. And I don't care about stuff that doesn't work and it's out there in the ether, and not everything works in life, but you can use also these social channels to test, actually, do you really know your audience? And if you're not completely and utterly focused as a culture on drilling down on who is your core customer, there are about 8 billion opportunities out there to sell to, and you ain't going to sell to all of them. So if you keep culturally saying to your team, what is our brand value? Who are our potential customers? And do you have the name like we do of a customer, or if you have to, two kinds of customers, depending on the brand and the product, because that should lead to your influencer selection process. Choose the influencer according to quality, style, their values that resonate with your brand. Follow account, yes, but actually follow account can be hugely misleading. It can be utter bollocks, because you can get much more out of a micro influencer with 2,000 followers than someone with 10,000 who has no engagement. And I think the other thing for us, and I've literally just said it out loud to my team, I don't care if it's a smaller influencer, if ultimately they're a genuine fan of my Kit Bricks brand and they can be seen to be playing sports, and they're not, and I literally just said these words, so forgive me, but I genuinely think there are now professionals out there, like there are professional competition winners or entry people. There are definitely professionals going to brands and going, I call them unprofessionals, who are seeing what free swag they can get. And they have no intention of doing anything. And they might even be selling your expensive product on eBay. So, you know, don't be naive that you're giving away money, right? Product is money. Samples are money. The post is money. And so micro-influencers may offer you a more authentic engagement, but you must have expectations. So don't also be a, frankly, wet drip about laying out those expectations. I wonder, you know, if you're clear, because mostly, frankly, I find we are softer in terms of our communication demand. And frankly, I try as hard as I can to be very clear, very commercial, very professional, so that I'm not overwhelmed and so that there's an expectation. So are you setting your expectations? You know, this is an exchange of goods in order for an exchange of activity is how I would look at it. And you should look at any product as money, right? So your stock is money. And in fact, the minute it's in stock, it's in flexible money, because sod's law, you sell more of that thing than you actually want to be selling of something else. That's the way it is. So establish things like, with whoever the influencer or ambassador, depending on the scale, ambassadors, we have Paula Radcliffe in Kit Bricks, and I'll use that as an example later. How much time do they have? And actually, this I found astounding. Paula told me the other day, because I said to her, tell me the things you don't like doing at the beginning of the engagement. I said to her, tell me what you don't want to be doing. She told me I'm the first brand that's ever bothered to ask her how she likes to interact, right? Because PR agencies, and they don't really care, but you're the brand founder. So the power of you having the conversation with the big ambassador, the one that you're really is the game changer, because you've got hierarchy. And at the very top, you might be exchanging share value or money in order to bring someone on board. I promise you, you've got to look at it as an exchange of value. I mean, for me to give anything away, I'm partly Scottish, is quite a big ask. So I need people to work for it. Skin in the game matters. And skin in the game commercially has been proven to work. The other thing is you've got to do all the diligence as if you are, I don't know, leading managing a professional football club, and you've got a budget and you're wanting to sign a player and you need to extract sales of shirts, right? Have you ever done the maths of, we all loathe the idea that footballers shouldn't be paid, but actually if the guy sells enough shirts, he's making so much money for the international network of football, the maths of their pay actually pathetically adds up. So what is the deal that you're trying to do? Because you can have a short-term arrangement and you can have a medium term, and it sounds really childish, but actually, is this a long-term arrangement? And if you're going to exchange shares, this is a forever potentially, because you very rarely get to buy shares back. So think, and perhaps go steady. It took me, I'm not joking, but the strategy, just to tell you, about 5 years ago, I bought tickets to a dinner to meet Daley Thompson. He's one of my athletic heroes. You're all too young to know. There was Paula and Steve Radcliffe at dinner. For whatever reason, I got, talking to them because I always wanted to meet my childhood hero. And you can see I'm so thrilled to have Paula Radcliffe in the business that I behaved like a right idiot when I said to her, look, when I went running this morning, I was thinking I was Paula Radcliffe. So I think the other thing is that if you're not your authentic self, you're also not going to get the best of the other authentic self. So I don't see this as just a transaction when I'm talking about a senior ambassador in which I might exchange shares or even be spending real coin. So think about your brand direction. And then also when you're thinking about these influencers of whatever level, which product alignment? Is it the whole product range? Is there one particular product? Do you need someone because you're launching a product and you're strategically moving the direction of the business? So again, I can use it as an example. And also I really want you to buy this bag because it will change your life. Paula genuinely helped me at the running show 2 years ago, redesign. Oh, actually, I've got it here. This bag this is your mother's dream for going to football practice or rugby or lacrosse or hockey or whatever wet, grotty, shitty, you put it down by the bag. But this is a tote bag that slides over a suitcase, but it would never have slid over a suitcase if Paula didn't say, look, I travel all the time. I live in Monaco. It has to be able to stick on my wheelie and I have to have a long enough shoulder strap. So I'm running for an aeroplane. Now, the time that we've invested in getting to the point where we've launched a product which Paula genuinely had a part in is a much better authentic story than, can you say you like these running shoes? And you need to be clear about the kind of whole methodology around how you're going to align and due diligence the person that you're working with. So back to the Stocker story, what is their character history? How have they behaved in the past when something went wrong? Have they had previous collaborations? And actually, what's the reputation of this person? So I also, genuinely did sound check other people that knew Paula. And now it's just magnificent because I can email her and go, by the way, you don't know so-and-so. And she'll go, yeah, I do. I was run training with him in a camp 30. And literally, it's just, I can't tell you, but you need to look out. You need to, if you're going to involve a high-end celebrity, and I mean, I'll tell you a price I learned at Harvard. There's a very famous actor who's got lots of muscles. I can't remember his name. It's unimportant. He will not engage with a brand for less than $10 million. So that gives you an idea that these people now really understand how their value is. And actually it's moved beyond famous people working with brands. If you look at the Ronaldo situation, he now owns his own media marketing agency and he invents brands like jeans brands because actually he gets the whole margin as opposed to a small share of the margin. So the way this industry is changing at the top end is huge. And actually, there are some small brands that, I don't know, went to school with someone who becomes enormously famous and they say to their best mate who happens to be a mega influencer, can you work with us? And they get lucky and they're not paying a huge fee and they're not giving up shares. But you have an asset in shares and you have an asset in material goods, sending out a candle from Scented to people and, a discovery tin that helps you breathe. Actually, we've been extremely lucky in getting posts because of exchange of product and also because of a genuinely handwritten note, which I genuinely handwrite, but I can't do them all anymore. So again, you're going to move a stage in your content strategy from personalization, and bridging that gap needs to be managed appropriately so that you're not abusing your relationship with these people. You have to have time. So collaborating with the influencer, thinking about your content strategy. Do they want to write words? Do you need to serve them words that they tweak to put it in their own language? Are they offended that you do that? Have they even come across ChatGPT? Content is king. Data is gold. Who do they know? The network. But what's your brand voice? And actually, are there any boundaries? Because you should set boundaries if you want to set boundaries, but you need to share in the same voice. Obviously, if you're doing this at a very high-end level, contracting, I mean, to give you an idea, I'm still good old fashioned trust. I've already transferred shares and we haven't finally signed the kind of exchange of goods, which is a bit crazy, but I know that it created a tick in the box for I am really serious about having Paula in Kitbricks. So I changed the share register. So ensure your influencer order of events is professionalized, and you have to contract when you're really spending money and investing, and that's very straightforward. The other thing is I think time is money. My mum and dad taught me time is money. So what are their time pressures? It is really clear that we should not email someone who's working with us when they are commentating on the London Marathon. That would be stupid, right? So are you respecting the other jobs and the other income streams, or are you fully paid for and somebody fully buying into a full-time role and on a salary with you and everything in between, right? So have consideration. Respect that they might be on a horrendous travel schedule in Budapest one day, London Marathon another, Great North Run another, going to Brighton to be the timing runner. It's, you know, you need to get to know your people and the people you work with. And I would consider these people to be so important that they are members of the team that everybody gets involved in. And don't forget, culturally, for example, with Kitbricks, we're a sports business, really. And, you know, it's exciting. So also use the ambassador within the culture. I can't wait for some of my team members to meet Paula. You meet a famous person, and if you love sports, and when you see people's eyes light up, you know you've picked the right person. So also, that's a good gauge of, before you dive in, you know, it's almost like try before you buy. Know how the needle moves and equate that value so that actually you're not abusing the relationship. So the contract and the compensation of deliverables, timelines, any exclusivity clauses. I'll give you an example. In the years ago when Kitbricks first began, I thought it'd be really interesting to sign Laura Trott. And it was an intelligent move, and we nearly got there, but they had to put in a clause to protect Laura's income, which was, if a major hair care brand came and said they had an exclusive, Kitbricks got pushed aside. We got pushed aside. Bugger. Right, so all the work that we did, we took the risk because we knew we were a minnow. So also respect, where are you in the hierarchy of importance? Because if you're bringing no money to the party, what are you bringing? Are you bringing a code which pays a commission, like a platform code with AWIN on an affiliate platform? Does your partner want to have their own landing page on your website? Is that something you want? How are you going to measure the performance metrics and define key indicators around, was it worth it? So if you've got a brand that's worth £1 million and you give away a share, that share is worth £10,000. Are you going to extract £10,000 from that share because you ain't getting the share back? And by the way, that share value is going up. Is your ambassador playing their role in doing that? I'm just going to stop for a minute because I'm bored of my own voice. What's my opinion about affiliate marketing with influencers, especially on TikTok? So far, social media offers. I mean, how many influencers would you suggest? I have no idea how many influencers you should work with, and I'm not going to answer a question I don't know. But I know that in America, when we worked with Centered, we were kind of working with a field for what, and America has a machine at this, and you know, and there are specialist agencies, many of which talk shit, who spread you too wide, and they're, in my opinion, untargeted unless they're very well briefed. So you have to control what they're doing and make sure you're sending out the samples to people that you think. So it's a second approval process. When we use an agency, we have our internal pick and pack operation taking care of that. I think TikTok is so challenging depending on the age and stage of your consumer target, meaning I'm 55, I'm a more mature woman. I behave differently and I engage with TikTok very differently from when I use Instagram. So again, depending on the platform you're on, maybe you're targeting a particular age group on Meta and you're not targeting the same on TikTok, but maybe you're doing both, but you're doing it in a different way. And by the way, you have to be very careful about not linking same feeds because you'll get blocked from one and the other. There are some technical issues. It's not rocket science, by the way. Just be careful that you don't repost the same thing without amending it offline. how many influencers would I suggest to work with? On an affiliate basis, I would suggest as many as makes reasonably sensible when you can manage and stay in touch, but actually not drag your business down, because you really have a very limited way of measuring other than them using an affiliate code of some kind. And on an ambassador basis, depending on the deal, my belief is focus on few, not on many, and get best return on investment, I guess.
Lara, can I nip in and ask a couple
Sure.
of questions? I've been making notes. I think this content is brilliant, and so useful to hear it from a lived experience perspective. And I know you've got experience of kind of, you know, the product side of things. So gifting in exchange for coverage, which is how many small brands would start. But now obviously then talking about working with a really famous influencer as well, where there are share options or there's cash exchange. So I think on both sides of that, I'd be interested to know, for those smaller brands here where they are considering or they have been gifting product in exchange for, you know, maybe it's you know, product placement for PR, or it's working with influencers. How do you work out what your deliverables should be? Because I know you're all about the numbers. So do you like a formula that you work from, that, you know, if the product, because it's money, as you said, costs X, what should we be?
That is a great question. And I forgot to put it in my notes, but I've just demonstrated that to my social team in Centered. So take your calculators out, ladies. They're on your phones. I use it every day. And I'm making this shit up, but it's all I can do. So you can fly with it and adjust it or go, you're bonkers, Mrs. Morgan. So, and this is not from Harvard. This is Lara's math. So you probably will wet yourselves laughing and go, I've got a better idea, and I'm really open for that. So I just said to Kelly, I said, when we're giving away product, we need to know the cost of our product. And I mean at cost, I don't mean at sale price. So there's a huge gulf, we know, on our margins. I said, so first of all, I'm completely transparent with my staff about what the products cost, because then they know what they're giving away. So they've got to have a foundation of, if I'm giving away a micro towel, it costs X. Or if I'm giving away a proper Kitbricks tote bag, which is 50 quid, but will change your lives. And it'll be the best payback for me if you buy one anyway. So I want to see that boom, because everybody should be modeling this on Saturday and Sundays at sports pitches, like I religiously looked after my kids. But my point is, let's say we have I did the maths just now. I think I said, let's say we've got a micro influencer who's reasonably engaged. And let's say they've got 2,000 followers, right? And by the way, that followers means not very much. But the check there is, if they're getting 200 likes and they're posting regularly, and the quality of their posting is the style that you like, and I wrote this down in my meeting, and there's an actual participation with their audience, right? All of those things now make me go, that 2,000 person micro influencer is better than the 10,000 person non-active, might have bought the audience ages ago. You don't know, and you can't see really that they're posting. And by the way, reels matter. If they can do a reel, you can then use it on Amazon and use it across other platforms. But that micro influencer, let's say is getting, let's say they're getting, 25% of their audience even looking at the picture. So times your 2,000 by 25, you get 500 potentially people eyes on the prize, whatever the prize is, right? So that's 500 people of awareness that they'll probably forget straight away, but you need 14 touch points for someone to like your brand. I should have counted how many times I put Kitbricks in this call, because that's quite fun. Now, those 500 eyes are not necessarily going to click through to anything, right? But let's say that you've got an open rate of 25% on your newsletters. So I've applied that knowledge, right? And I've gone, okay, so I've times that. I've just made it up just now. And I've taken my 500 might have had eyes on the prize, times it by 0.25 to dilute it to my newsletter open rate. And I've got 125, right? So now I've got 125 people that might show a slightly deeper interest in what that influencer is saying about Kitbricks or Centered or Gate 8 or whatever, Yogi Bear. And then I times it by 0.02, which is 2%, right? And I get 2.5%, 2.5 rather. That is my estimate of how many units at my average order value I will sell from that post. Does that, so And that's, so now if I say I'm going to sell 2.5 units when somebody puts a 2,000 post out, and it's probably more dilutative. So that's my best case. And I always think in good, better, best, because even though I'm a hooligan, I use maths like religion. If somebody sells 2.5 bags, so let's dilute it again, and they sell half of that, 1.25 bags, but I've made profit on my bags, giving them the product that allowed them to take the picture in their environment pays dividends, right? And then it's familiarity, because now you've got a photo stock that you can push to your audience, and now you've got a connection with a different group, and now you've got various other incremental added values that I don't calculate into the price. I just see them as the added upside that might come, right? But I can't measure the might come. Yeah. So when I'm working with micro influencers, I very much focus on niche markets. I'm very much looking for the authentic content, and I very much do cost-effective mathematics, so that if they're doing that post, and I'd love to hear if anybody's got a better way of doing it, but that is my, what are they doing? Are they, engaging with local hyper niche audiences in lacrosse, because Kitbricks really wants a lacrosse influencer. And actually, I've just said to my team, I'd much rather have a 18-year-old that's really active, or 19 just going to university and probably playing for one of the top university teams like Exeter, who is going to go and play for England in America at the Lacrosse World Championships. Can you see there's a strategic thread to us now trying to find the influencer that we sponsor and give the brilliant poncho from Kitbricks, because actually we're also trying to get that product, and we have Kitbricks in America where I am. But if that English player is wearing Kitbricks in America and she takes a picture, that's a higher value picture than the one she takes in UK. So, and it's very quick thinking, but there's maths attached. Did that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you just raised another really important point about markets.
Yeah.
Because,
oh God.
Well, no, I mean, interesting. So, I mean, as you know, I have a PR background, and I work with influencers in the travel space for my consulting business. And a lot of the time when we work with influencers, we do have to think about the time that they're going to be posting, who's going to, especially if it's story based.
Yep.
Who's going to see it? Are we going to have anyone awake to engage with it?
Yep.
And because all of that has an impact on the return that you can generate from those instances of engagement. Because yes, it's all very well that you might have eyes on your product or on your experience.
Yeah.
But are you available, and is your team available to engage with that?
Yeah.
And
so
getting the right audience based on what your core market is.
So really interesting. This may be utter rubbish as well, but it was a thing we've tested. I asked an agency when Gymshark posted, because they're a mega sports brand. And in UK, they post at 7 p.m. in the evening, which is clearly 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock or a little bit earlier and a little bit later across America, where their biggest market is. They're not going to post too early in UK in the day to waste the post impact in America, where their biggest market is. So where's your biggest market, right? And actually, we've been having this debate with the Centered newsletter. We really want people to stop, inhale, and reset, and give themselves a break and be kind to themselves. But actually, you're right. What is the moment at which they're going, or what is that inflection point where someone's finally having a moment to breathe, Michelle? Because there's no point promoting to them at the time when they're on fire and they've got the kids ditched in the school queue or whatever it is, and they're feeling human, and they haven't met the member of staff that is just about to resign and break their momentum. When do you find, and some of it's luck and some of it's test, but I would just suggest, clearly that demonstration says we've thought very hard that we need to care for those core markets, because they're our core focuses, and international things get more complex, more complicated. But you all watch TV. I'm a massive sports addict. So you know, when are people watching your programs? When are you, you know, those things. And another strategy, you know, if I can seed a product when Paula is on TV, which is or a flag with Kitbricks in the background, I almost want to be, you know, the flag attached to my spine, walking around with Paula at the London Marathon, where I can get Kitbricks on TV. Do you know what I mean? But you also, I mean, I'll try, I'm not, just for the record, I'm not doing that. But that brings up the next point, which is relationship building and fun. You know, you need to foster that relationship, and you need to also give your people a level of creative freedom, because remember, you're using these influencers in a way to build into their audiences. And so you shouldn't be too dictatorial about how they do things, but also, like I said to you, meet a boundary and support them. You got to track and optimize. I wrote that earlier, and I was thinking, you know, it's that age-old PR advertorial bullshit of which of this works. And that's just, you have to have time to monitor. We centered work with nootropics the other day, and the difference between one post and a response and another was such a lesson in engagement. And it was also interesting because we took some giveaways of nootropics to the Happy Place Festival, where we couldn't keep up with and we had the most lovely story, actually, where a woman said, I mean, it reduced 2 of my team to tears. You know, we change lives because people get a confidence from scent that allows them to take the breath and maybe challenge a norm that they fight against, or whatever the order of things is. And there's anecdotal tracking, which I also think is pretty bloody powerful. You know, can you gather a testimonial from an influencer's impact that affects your team to the point where on the Monday they gathered a call for feedback on Happy Place, because they wanted also to share that then when this woman was telling her story, this other complete stranger next door at the stand said, I'm telling you now, I passed my driving license on its 5th attempt because I used Focus, which is one of our, I mean, that just made them laugh from tears to laughing out loud. Isn't that wonderful? And also they wanted to share from the feedback of speaking to people at the event. And these are some of our influencers, that it was very, very, and this really pisses me off, women in the crowd, that teachers are buying centered because they are desperately sad about having to go back to school in the current conditions, right? So the other thing is, if you can give a touch point of care to a teacher or a bit of sport, please do so, because, and that leads me, I guess, to my nearly final point, which is post-campaign engagement is something that it's like everything, right? I've just talked about Happy Place feedback. We do a festival, we do an event, we do a report card on it, we do a P&L on it. I lost money last weekend because I always dance for rain, showers and snow when we're selling poncho for Kitbricks or triathlons, right? And it was bloody hot somewhere in Brighton. And my team were therefore doing their best. But what is in everything in your business, what is your end of campaign or end of project review for feedback? What could be done better? What's the potential future? What are the broader collaborations that come from this? I'm not being funny. I can actually show you that, because Michelle just reminded me that she has amazing travel connections. She will be getting an email that says, who is there in the travel space that would like centered? Because we're starting to work with airlines again. And I'm laughing, but Michelle, I can't help myself. I'm a sales hound, right? And so who knows who, what's their network, what worked, what didn't work, what can you scale, what can you reuse, what can you also post elsewhere? Many brands are missing the connection of all the work they do on their own channel, and they feel Amazon's the beast, and actually they're not. They're just a machine that's very annoying, that's got a brilliant strategy, that's the flywheel effect. And if you can reach a target audience that only buys through Prime, you've got 50% of the US market that might be your eyes on the prize, right? So, you know, are you reposting the reel that you have had created by someone kindly to enliven your Amazon information without having to pay another bloody photographer for more pictures? Because content.
And Lara, back to kind of when you're talking to influencers about deliverables, are these things you need to cover off?
Yeah.
Whereby you might say to them, well, are you prepared that whatever content we generate belongs to us?
Yeah.
We can use
and
that.
Also you need to be, cognizant, when we're doing pictures for Kitbricks, we have to either get children permission signed off, and you've got to be within these rules. And actually, it's a great question, because it also reminds me, I should have said about, I went to a course once at Cranfield, and during the course, a travel company called Challenger, who took kids abroad for experiences, had a child fall in genuinely into the water and be bitten by a crocodile. They already had the letter that was going to the press. They already had the written document that said, this is what the team. They already had the message that went to the CEO that said, call the parents. And the upside of the downside of good crisis management, which can happen when you're playing with fire. And if you're playing with a big fire, right, you've got a problem. So again, it depends on the size of your ambition. So, the headline ambassador can be very much a challenge, and you may need to think about that in terms of the profile, and are they an expert voice, and do they have the substantial following? I have another ambassador that has joined Kitbricks, which will be timely announced in the mud month of February. I can give you a hint. He, right, is shit at social media, but his international sports network is to die for. And I need to know those senior decision makers. So the lesson that I learned at Harvard is it's not, the influencer and the ambassador is not always about the online either. So do think about that.
Absolutely. It's a gatekeeper strategy, isn't it? That's kind of really thinking about who are
credibility, right? Credibility, because I've got a new story. And actually, these are big stories. So actually, I align my PR project-based spend, because PR costs a lot of money, and I get the right photo images. And I then am probably going to put Paula in a picture with him as well to milk her again. And I'm trying to think about that post planning. And you can see that I called it the mud month of February, because I'm not joking. That is how far ahead we're trying to think. I spoke to a brand yesterday, which is a supplement or a mindful snacking brand, because I have a plan in the wellness month, and I spoke to a linen brand, because I want a linen partner in the wellness month to talk about sleep is the best recovery, right? Says she who woke up in the middle of the night, menopausal bollocks, but I applied both my sleep and my love balm in equal measure and went back to bed. I'm those bigger thinking or deeper or wider thinking, I guess. It's, I learn this shit and then I just apply it. And hopefully some of that has been a bit useful. Somebody's asked in the group, share a bit more about reels. Our view is that reels are only what people look at now. I don't know if anybody else has a comment, but it's, and therefore we've employed a professional. So we also have a teach the teacher strategy. So bear in mind, my genes are partly Scottish, so I can milk it for all it's worth, I will. So I take the professional and I pay big money I call it big money. She probably doesn't, because I've negotiated the shit out of it, but she's world class at what she does. We love her. We are getting other members of our group of businesses to watch how Monica does things. And we see the brilliance of how she does her reels and the messaging, and then we mimic it, and we use our China division, hopefully, to create other reels, or my other team members to mimic the cleverness and the framework. So, because then we scale the value that we get from Monica. So we will then also put that reel in as many places. And in fact, I'm working on a sort of website entertainment area where, laughably, my QVC reels, because I am religious about wellness and I work really hard, even though I eat shitloads of chocolate and I eat too many. I don't eat crisps anymore because my children pointed out that they're packed so badly for the environment, I can't eat them. But I eat other alternative appalling food. And I know that if we're more human about who we are also as founders, and we post that, I believe people want to get to know that real person. And there's never enough time.
That's really interesting that you touched on that, actually, because I think, and maybe you disagree, but so many women particularly do not step up to being the face of their brand or step out from behind their brand.
Yeah.
And that is a huge opportunity to build your audience, drive engagement, give people an opportunity to hear your story. But that we often forget we are the primary influencers for
Michelle,
our business.
I think that leads to a much bigger headache that women have, which is women don't invest in women enough, and they don't invest in themselves enough, and they don't give themselves credit. I have 3 girls, and I am definitely changing this. I mean, one of the reasons I'm hanging in there to keep building is I've also learned how purposeful business can be. But let me then get back to the grassroots. If you've built a business because you've determined that you're inventing a product or service that's better than others, and you really believe in it, say so. And say so from your perspective. And, you know, it reminds me, I need to, again, I'm never satisfied that we do enough of this. But you need to be, you know, representing. I'm laughing because I'm definitely, I've been winging this for some time, but, you know, you need to be the voice if you have the opportunity, because actually this is where every British business gets it wrong, because in America, they don't mind if you fail, kind of, you learn lessons and you pick yourself up. We're so self-critical. We're so demeaning of each other. We're so, and there's a, you know, almost stupid, pointless waste of time.
Really quite fragile. What? The nail plate.
Cattiness. Somebody's not on mute.
Yes,
so the cattiness or the nastiness or the unnecessary criticism that I think women are famous for, just stop it. It's all such a bloody waste of time, right? Just be positive and give people credit, you know, and do small touch points and, you know, care to say thank you in a small way. Like today, I'm going to say to you, because I want to test this. I invested more than an hour in me putting together what I hope is a really good checklist. And Michelle, I'll let you have my scribbled notes, because some of it I cheated from ChatGPT and some of it I've verbalized and extended, but it really helped me. And also it was to underpin to people, for God's sake, use these cheats, because they're not perfect, but oh my God, are they making my life better at the moment? And secondly, pay me back, please. I'm asking you to spend 25 quid of your money, someone in the group or someone's, and buy something for a member of staff. So I'm not asking you to spend it on yourself, right? It's about saying thank you, because the remarkable cultural uplift of spending 20 quid, which is, you can barely buy anything with in America for 20 quid now, I can tell you, will give you hundreds of quid payback because you've just bothered, right? And actually that's the other bit, which is, you know, maybe to ask other questions. Just bother with your influencers, bother to send them and include them, bother to get your data aligned, bother to have an influencer only group and an affiliate only group and a manage the platform and all of those things. Bother to care. You know, we're about to launch with Blue Light Card, where in the launch, it's going to hurt and it's a big investment, but we're suggesting that to the Blue Light Card members, they can buy the Sleep Well product, or in fact, I think we've gone mad. And I think we're saying you just pay postage and packing to get a balm. Says she, taking a deep inhale of breath, going, I must have done the maths enough that it's not going to kill me, because there's 2.5 million people on this channel, right?
My partner's in the police. He uses his Blue Light Card for everything he can.
And so you should, because, and actually they send out a card because people should be proud that they're working for the services, right? Paramedics and nurses and others. So where was I going? We want the nursing community to be influencers, and we saw that coming out of COVID, buying Sleep Well, because you can apply it wherever, whenever, right? And says she demonstrating it. But it is those people that naturally internet your product into their lives. Those are the ones that, you know, off the cuff also give you feedback and say to you, because we're working on a new development, because Paula quite rightly said, you know, this bag has everything except the removable makeup bag that I need. So a lightweight, you know, and the point is if your influencer really cares and they're not just putting a reel together for a one-off, then you know you've got the right person.
Thank you. I have a question on that, but I just want to encourage everyone. I think we've got 10 minutes left. If you do have questions, pop them in the chat so that we can make sure we get your questions answered. But actually, Lara, that sort of raises two things I wanted to say. One, on the one-off, what's your advice around working with micro or macro influencers on a one-off? Because
I would
is
say
that meaningful or?
Yeah, well, God. I mean, we did a campaign with Copper Feel. By the way, if anybody wants, this is a brilliant campaign. I don't know if I've got one. I think I left all my. Anyway, I'll show you. But I mean, we sell a booklet and it's got this mini balm in it. And we designed a little booklet, and you can hand it to, you can buy it or you can hand it to friends, and we give them out as part of our charitable cause, because I had this conversation with my 3 kids during COVID, and they said, "Mummy, we don't need to do breast checks." And I'm like, 19, 21, 24, yes, you do. And obviously I'm in the luxurious position where I made 10,000 and gave them away. So and we've obviously had the laugh at the dinner table about, "Mummy, you are giving away my inheritance." And I'm pointing out that it is not your inheritance, it is my money. And I will give away my money if I can reach 30,000 people with a Copper Feel balm because they hand over a sticker. I'm losing my train of thought, but I think the enormity of using one-offs can serve a purpose when you're having a campaign, but I'm not sure it's serving your brand long term. You know, it's almost like everything in enterprise, almost everything, because you can never say quite everything. A deeper, longer, and it's so against the enterprise grain, and I'm such a hypocrite because I used to make this mistake all the time. Trying everything like a butterfly isn't going to work, right? Slow down slightly, think it through, as I hope I've demonstrated a bit about my manipulative bitch from hell strategy to get Paula on board, but in an honest and genuine way, you know. And again, you've got to laugh at some of the things because it won't all go right either. I'm now after Adam Peaty, not just because I like looking at his body on Instagram. So if anybody knows Adam, that would be lovely. Use your network. But I don't think kissing lots of frogs and that small thing is as genuine as a few really consistent relationships of, is this a middle influencer strategy that we're investing because we know that people have become a bit tired of being manipulated?
In terms of strategy, so Morven's asked the question here about how much of your marketing spend do you allocate to influencers? Or, I mean, again, do you have a formula for that?
I don't, as I don't run marketing day to day, it is not my budget. I can't answer that question, so I won't make it up. It's product and sample and postage and time for a member of staff managing it. So I could definitely do the maths. I think I'm remaining highly skeptical because I find it difficult to measure. So I still think you've got to be very careful with your own excitement at getting someone to repost when actually, if it isn't converting to that sell, don't waste your money. So I'm skeptical healthily.
Okay. So to be kind of cautious around.
Yeah. And so somebody asked, Olia, do I find it better to do a one? I think long-term collab over is probably going to get better payback. I hope that me using ChatGPT to try and cover all the points. Do I pay influencers just with product? I have both used financial incentive and product. Clearly, I'd rather give product because there's a perceived value that they're getting a brilliant therapeutic candle, which you can't smell until you smell it. And then they're blown away. And actually what I find interesting is people buy it again, because we are a therapeutic candle, not just a candle. But I was pretty reticent about cash in the early days, and we don't use any cash on big influencer marketing because I think that's become a machine that isn't worth buying. You know, and when I went to a course learning about Kardashian and how they, you know, you pay, nobody knows the number because I don't have the contract, you know, 100 or 200,000 for a post to an audience, but they syndicate the reach and they spread it amongst their 20 followers, and they've reduced their follower base because that's better in the algorithm. And there's a lot of game, as you can tell, I've become a bit of a junkie. So I mean, unless you're spending your cash, and you would spend it wisely, and by that I mean don't spend investor cash without really being clear that you're going to get an ROI, because I think there's too many people who've been invested in and they're wasting money.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I agree. Anyone else got any more questions you want to pop in?
Sorry, we went quite quickly. I will
No, it's fine. Well, I mean, what I guess something I think that, again, we miss a trick on this, many of us, and I know that you're a big believer in communities and audiences, and we saw this through COVID, didn't we? That the brands that made it through were the ones that had really solid community bases of customers, and where they
sell to.
Yeah, exactly.
In touch with.
But I think something that many businesses underestimate the power, and we underestimate the power, is how we can be influencers for each other. And you did earlier, you know, about how we can support women-led businesses. And as you know, the Women's Chapter, this is a very, very big part of our mission, is really kind of inciting our community to think about how they spend their money and the difference that can make to another female founder, but equally to other people's lives. And I think we all can be, by shouting out the brands that we love, and not expecting anything in return, but doing it because we love the product, we love the brand, we're really bought into the story, and we want to support them, have a massive impact on the success of those businesses without them even asking us to do it.
And actually, the other thing, I mean, you just made me think of something, and I got it out because I think it's a really clever kit, but I completely underestimated, and my team, of course, got it right, and I didn't probably think hard enough. So I'll just show you this. This is the other kit that we invented this. We call it Mindful Escape because we know that lots of people just need 20 minutes of self-care. So that I religiously have burnt candles to make sure they last 20 minutes of time. And you get it, and it's got a little holder in it. But the point that I'm making is, you don't know all the answers. And therefore, if you have an honest network of influencers who are truly engaged and truly giving you feedback, we've been utterly astounded by the success of this really clever, cute item. But we've also learned stuff. So we're now having to make refills because the influencers are saying, this is the feedback I'm getting, you don't sell refills, duh. And by the way, we knew that going in, but you know, we didn't know how successful the kit would be, and sometimes you have to test and trial. But the idea that you send a touch point, and, you know, the idea of this, which was, you know, not my idea, but we have a card inside it that goes on top that says to and from. And this is an evolution of our hero tin, didn't come from us, right? Because we don't have all the ideas. We sometimes get too close to our brands. And the value of feedback and asking for feedback. So the other bit that I was going to say is, you know, do it, and this is slightly off the topic, but I've been doing it and I think it'll pay back huge. Every touch point that you have, whether it's influencer, customer, even through Amazon, how you're trying to win the customer back direct to your community, Michelle, you use the word community, even if it's just a QR code that comes to a box breathing exercise that gives somebody a bit of benefit. What's the bit of benefit extra that you've got? I'm not asking you to create, but you went into this, whatever your product service is, add value at every point, because your community should see that you're not there just, so it's that, you know, educational piece, genuine content, not content churn.
And I think before we finish, there was one last question, and I think Lara, I would love you to answer this because I'm sure you're going to have a really high impact answer. Regarding founders becoming the face of their brand and influencers themselves, any tips on overcoming the challenge of being behind the scenes to then becoming the face of the brand? How do we make that move if we've been...
I mean, literally, when I saw my first company 15 years ago, I did media training because I was, I'd been selling soap to hotels, and I'd been licensing Bulgarian Penhaligons, and I know a lot about great fragrance, which is why I have scented, but I was shit scared in front of a camera. And by the way, the lesson that I learned, so Michelle, maybe it's something you need to put on, which is you get there are specialists in training you to be media savvy. And I was starting to work with Steve Hilton at Downing Street and David Cameron to influence. And I did Startup Britain, and we were getting interviewed, and I just wanted to be less than a buffoon. So, and then when they record you and play you back, and you think you've been precise, and you realize you are talking utter shit, right? So however much of a hooligan I am, I came prepared to this meeting with my list, with a follow-up, which I can send through to Michelle, and she's very welcome to send, because she'll also put in the Lara 20 code, which gets you your discount on any of my products. But I want to milk every opportunity to be the professional I can. So back to the question, what are you worried about in terms of being the face? And the one thing I will tell you as an investor is you can't be the face to the point at which you can't extract yourself, because there was a stage even with Innocent Drinks where they relied so much on Instagram and their social media and their following that the boys were doing that, and they needed to come out of Innocent to professionalize it. But who could be their tone of Innocent took a long time in finding the right tone to move from them living and breathing their brand. So how deep you get in, how much you are the face, remember, Joe Malone doesn't owe Joe Malone. So I always think that that's quite an interesting dichotomy, but I believe in the modern media age, the majority have to have some face presence, and it's just a process. Just start building it up. I think at the very basic level, if it's good advice, record yourself telling your story of why you got into this shit, because you're in it now, right? And then share it. The fact that I built Centered because I suffered from stress and held onto the arms of chairs just to get air. And I was winking at people weirdly because I was so tired and I was ill-disciplined about my health. And I just needed to breathe, but also because we had challenges at home, which will remain private, but actually dealing with children and teenagers struggling and all the challenges of being a working mum. There's a very meaningful belief that if I can build a big health and lifestyle brand, then I can give back to what is the mental health community and support it. And by buying product, I am building a, brand that I hope will replace crap at the till point, sweetie, sugary shite. We could be doing a mini balm. And actually, instead of mini bars of chocolate, which are my current, we need to replace the opportunity with a health thing that isn't just sugar or raisins or Peppa Pig or a flicking bit of carrot cake, because actually you carry a mini pocket rocket in your go-to and you take a breath. I promise you, there are better ways of using scent to affect mindset. So you've got to be driven by the real story. Tell the story, be your brand, and off then just follow the journey. You're on mute, hon. Michelle, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm on mute. Sorry. I was just saying that's absolutely brilliant. And I thought that you would incorporate the investor's perspective there. And I think that that's really important for so many of us to step out of our comfort zones. And to not forget that we are influencers in our own businesses. So hopefully that is one of the key takeaways from everyone today. Also, you put together such amazing resources. I will definitely share those with everyone if you're okay with that.
Yeah, of course.
So we'll do a follow-up afterwards. And by all means, if you do have questions, feel free to ping them over to us and we can send them over to Lara. I know that you're very busy and you're traveling, but we'll support you as best we can. And Lara, I'm eternally grateful to you.
Most welcome. I'm always grateful for anybody that turns up. So, you know, spread the word, try and teach each other, support each other, work with each other as female-owned brands. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, everyone. Great content. Thank you. And we'll be sharing the recording with you in a link at the end of this. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lara. I'll send you an email.
Yeah, do. I mean, there's lovely thank yous. I hope it was useful. I'll send you these scribbles and you can make sense of them for what they are, my list. And look, Michelle, I hope that was of use, because I genuinely love what you're doing. I think you're really adding value. Appreciate it.
Thank you.